Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Tyrone Phillips, and I am 33 years old. 3 months ago, I was supposed to be 3 months away from marrying my fiancée, Tanisha Grant, who is 31. We had been together for 2 years, engaged for 8 months, and up until very recently I would have told anyone that our relationship was solid and that I felt lucky. I had the dates circled on my calendar, tuxedo picked out, vows half written in a notebook on my nightstand. I had even started practicing how to say my wife out loud when no one was around, just to get used to it. I thought I knew who I was marrying. I thought I understood her family dynamics, her fears, and her values. I was wrong in ways I never imagined. And it all started with one sentence over a glass of wine at my dining table in Houston, Texas. To understand why everything exploded the way it did, you need to know a bit about my situation. I own my house outright. I bought it 6 years ago for $285,000, back when everyone told me I was buying too much house for a single man. I ignored them, worked like crazy, and made extra payments every chance I got. Last year, I paid it off completely. No mortgage, no lien, just my name on the deed. I also own a 15% stake in my family's logistics company, Phillips Freight and Transport, which my father started when I was a kid. My brother Terrell and I run most of the day-to-day operations now. On paper, my portion is worth around $900,000. My car is paid off. My retirement accounts are healthy for my age. I'm not rich enough to be on any magazine covers, but I am comfortable, stable, and I have worked for every dollar. Tanisha's situation is very different from mine, and that was never a problem for me. She is a dental hygienist at a busy practice on the southwest side of Houston and earns around $58,000 a year. She rents a small but nicely decorated apartment, drives a modest car, and has student loans she has been slowly paying off. Money was never why I loved her. I loved that she could talk passionately about her patients, about oral health, about little kids who were terrified of the dentist until she held their hand and talked them through it. I loved that she color-coded her planner and that she always made sure her younger cousins got school supplies every August. We had talked about her moving into my house after the wedding, which made financial sense. We both agreed it would help her pay off her loans faster, and we could save aggressively to build a future together. From early on, I knew her family had strong opinions about money, especially her mother, Valerie. Tanisha's parents, Leon and Valerie, had gone through a rough patch years earlier, and Tanisha had told me more than once that her mother left that marriage with nothing in her name. It was clear that this story had been repeated in that household over and over until it became almost a cautionary legend. Valerie was polite to me in person, but she always had a pointed comment ready like, "Make sure you keep your own savings, baby, or a woman needs something in her own name." I respected that background. I even suggested more than once that Tanisha talk to a financial planner so she could feel more secure. I never imagined that the same narrative would be turned into an ultimatum wielded at me like a weapon. The night everything cracked open was a Thursday evening. We were at my dining table going through wedding RSVPs. We had invited 200 guests. The venue was booked at a beautiful event space downtown. Her parents had contributed $7,000 toward the $22,000 total bill, and I had covered the remaining $15,000. We had deposits locked in for the venue, photographer, florist, caterer, and DJ. The spreadsheet on my laptop was full of color-coded cells: family, friends, co-workers, plus ones. Tanisha was sipping red wine, looking at a list of cousins on her side, and everything felt normal until she set her glass down and took a deep breath that immediately put me on edge, even before she opened her mouth. "Tyrone, I have been thinking," Tanisha said, fingers sliding nervously along the stem of her wine glass. "I need my name on the house before the wedding." I looked up from the spreadsheet, sure I had misheard her. "What?" I asked. She did not hesitate. "The house, the car, and your stake in the company," Tanisha said. "Everything should be in both our names. It is only fair if we are getting married." I blinked at her, trying to decide if she was joking, testing me, or rehearsing something she wanted to talk through. "Tanisha, we have not even gotten married yet," I said carefully. "Why would I put your name on assets I earned before we met?" Her jaw tightened. "Because marriage is about partnership, about sharing everything. If you really loved me, you would want me to feel secure." I took a slow breath, trying not to react too fast. "You will feel secure after we are married," I said. We can discuss things then. I am planning to add you as a beneficiary on my retirement accounts. We could talk about joint accounts for bills and savings. But I am not putting your name on my house, my car, or my business stake before we are even legally married. Those are premarital assets. That is not how this works. Tanisha shook her head, and her voice cooled. That is not good enough, Tyrone. I will not be some second-class citizen in my own marriage, she said. Either you put my name on everything, or we are postponing the wedding until you see reason. The way she said it, casually dropping a nuclear bomb into the middle of our wedding planning, made my skin prickle. It did not sound impulsive. It sounded rehearsed. I stared at her, the ultimatum hanging in the air like thick smoke. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want a name on my house, my car, and my stake in the company. Assets worth over $1 million that I built before we ever met. And if I do not, you are postponing the wedding indefinitely. Tanisha folded her arms. I'm not calling it off, she corrected. Just postponing until you understand what marriage means. There was something in her tone, something that told me she was not improvising. It sounded like she was reciting lines that had been fed to her. Is this coming from you? I asked. Or from your mother? Tanisha hesitated for 1 second too long. My mom and I have been discussing it, she admitted. She thinks I should protect myself. Her divorce from my dad was messy because she had nothing in her name. She does not want that for me. Suddenly everything clicked into place. This was not just Tanisha's fear. This was Valerie's entire history and resentment being funneled through her daughter into my relationship. I forced a smile that I am sure did not reach my eyes. Wow, I said. That is really a reasonable boundary you're setting there, Tanisha. Really reasonable. She smiled, missing the sarcasm completely. I am glad you understand, she said. My mom said you would fight me on this, but I knew you would come around once you thought about it. I nodded slowly. You were right about one thing, I said. I need to think about it. Since we were postponing the wedding, I should probably handle some logistics. Tanisha leaned over and kissed my cheek like she had just asked me to pick up milk. Thank you, baby, she said. I knew you would see reason. I excused myself and walked calmly to my home office, shutting the door behind me. As soon as the door latched, the comm dropped. I sat at my desk, stared at the family photo on my monitor wallpaper, then picked up my phone and made 3 calls. First was to my friend and lawyer, Rashad Miller. When he picked up, I skipped all pleasantries. Rashad, if a fiancée demands you put her name on your house, car, and company stake before the wedding, what do you call that? I asked. He laughed at first. I call that a joke, Rashad said. Why? Someone actually said that to you. I told him the whole conversation word for word. The laughter died fast. Tyrone, do not put her name on anything, Rashad said, his voice turning serious. That is insane. If you break up, she walks away with half your assets without ever having been married. She can claim you gifted joint ownership during the engagement. That is a hard no. You need to protect yourself. What happens if we actually get married later? I asked, still tried to see if there was some generous middle ground. You can talk about a prenuptial agreement, Rashad said. You can talk about how you want to handle joint property going forward. But what she's asking for now, pre-marriage, is a huge red flag. The fact that she is tying it to the wedding date makes it even worse. That is leverage, not love. Also, do not underestimate her mother in this. If Valerie is behind it, she may try other ways to get access to your assets. I pinched the bridge of my nose. So legally I am in the clear to say no, keep everything separate, and not move forward. I asked. Absolutely, Rashad said. In fact, I'm telling you as your lawyer and your friend, you should not move forward with the wedding at all unless this demand disappears completely and you're satisfied that this mindset is gone. But that is your call. After I hung up with Rashad, I called my brother Terrell. He helps run Phillips Freight with me and owns a similar stake. What is up? Terrell asked. You sound like you just found a rattlesnake in the kitchen. I told him what Tanisha had said about putting her name on my company's stake. Terrell cursed under his breath. So, she wants to be part owner of the company now? He asked. She does not work here, has not put in a single overnight shift at the warehouse, has not handled one late truck or upset client, but she wants part of the business before even becoming your wife. Apparently, that is her reasonable boundary, I said. Terrell was quiet for a moment. Look, I like Tanisha, he said, but if she is already looking at the company like something to put her name on, you need to make sure our corporate paperwork is tight. I will call Dad and our accountant. No one new gets near the ownership documents. No signatures. No transfers. Nothing. The third call was to the wedding venue downtown. I pulled up the contract while I listened to the phone ring. "Thank you for calling Magnolia Grand Events. This is Mr. Coleman. How may I help you?" The coordinator said. "Hi, this is Tyrone Phillips," I said. "I have a reservation for October 12th. It should be under Phillips Grant." There was a pause while he typed. "Yes, I see it here," Mr. Coleman said. "Ceremony and reception, 200 guests. How can I help?" I took a breath. "There's been a change," I said. "The bride wants to postpone indefinitely. I would like to transfer the reservation and the $15,000 deposit, which I paid in full, into my name only for let us call it a private celebration event. Same date, similar package. Is that possible?" On the other end, there was silence, then typing, then a cautious reply. "Mr. Phillips, typically our policy is that deposits are non-refundable and tied to the event as booked," Mr. Coleman said. "However, I see here that the payment came from your account and that you were the contracting party on the initial agreement, with the bride listed as an additional contact. May I ask why the wedding is being postponed?" "Because the bride has just informed me she will not marry me unless I transfer ownership of my house, car, and business stake into both our names before the ceremony," I said calmly. I declined. "She has postponed the wedding indefinitely. I would still like to use the venue and services I paid for on that date. I'm not asking for a refund, only to redirect the event." There was a long pause. Then Mr. Coleman said, "Let me speak with my manager, please. May I call you back at this number?" I told him yes and hung up, my heart pounding in my chest. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. "Mr. Phillips, thank you for your patience," Mr. Coleman said. "I spoke with our manager. Because you paid the deposit in full with your personal funds, and because you are listed as the primary client, we can transfer the reservation to your name exclusively. The $15,000 will stay with the venue and be applied to a private event for you on October 12th. You would need to sign updated paperwork clarifying that this is no longer a wedding reception." Relief washed through me, followed by a strange, petty spark of satisfaction. "That is perfect," I said. "I will come by tomorrow morning to sign whatever you need." We arranged a time. When I hung up, I sat in silence for a minute, listening to the muffled sounds of Tanisha watching television in the living room, completely unaware that I had just turned our wedding into something else entirely. The next day, I drove downtown to the venue. The October air in Houston was thick but not unbearable, and the lobby of Magnolia Grand Events smelled faintly of lemons and fresh flowers. Mr. Coleman met me with a professional smile and a printed packet of paperwork. "Just to confirm, this will now be a private celebration event?" he asked. "Correct," I said, and I signed each page slowly, making sure my name and only my name was on every line labeled client. When we finished, he handed me copies. "We will keep your menu and vendor arrangements unless you notify us otherwise," he said. "Is there anything else you would like to adjust?" I thought for a moment, then said, "Yes. Change the description in your system from wedding reception to Phillips Independent Celebration." Mr. Coleman's eyebrows lifted in curiosity, but he typed it in without comment. That Friday afternoon, back at home, I drafted a text message to Tanisha and read it 3 times before sending. "You said we are postponing the wedding until I meet your terms," I wrote. "I respect your boundary. Since I paid for the venue deposit, I have moved the reservation to my name only. You are welcome to make new plans when you are ready. Also, I think we should take a break while you figure out what you want. Please do not contact me unless it is to arrange picking up your belongings from my house." I hit send and watched the message status switch to delivered. Within seconds, my phone started ringing. Tanisha called once, then again, then again. In less than 10 minutes, I had 16 missed calls and a string of unread messages piling up. I declined every call, set my phone face down on the desk, and stared out the window until the ringing stopped. The next morning, there was a knock on my door that had a very specific rhythm to it, sharp and impatient. When I opened it, Valerie stood on my porch, designer purse on her shoulder, hair perfectly styled, eyes blazing. "Tyrone, we need to talk about this nonsense," she said as she marched past me into the foyer without asking. "Good morning, Valerie," I said, keeping my voice level. "Do not good morning me," she snapped. "You canceled my daughter's wedding." I closed the door behind her. I did not cancel anything, I said. Tanisha postponed the wedding indefinitely because I will not transfer ownership of my assets to her before the marriage. I simply rearranged my finances accordingly. Valerie whirled around. You stole the venue deposit, she said. You took what was meant for Tanisha's special day. I folded my arms. I paid for the venue deposit, I said. The money came from my account. I have receipts. I redirected my own money into an event in my name. That is not theft. Valerie's lip curled. You are punishing her for having boundaries, she accused. No, I replied. I am respecting her boundaries. She said she will not marry me unless I put her name on everything I own. That will never happen. Therefore, there is no wedding. It is simple. Valerie's face flushed a deep shade of red. You selfish, controlling, she began. I held up a hand. Valerie, stop, I said. You came into my house to insult me and accuse me of stealing my own money. You are crossing lines. You need to leave now. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You will be hearing from our lawyer, she said. You cannot get away with this. She turned on her heel, stomped down the walkway, and as she drove off, she rolled down the window just long enough to shout, You will regret this. 4 days later, on Tuesday morning, I got a notification from the front desk of my office building that there was a certified letter for me. I signed for it and immediately noticed the law firm letterhead on the envelope. Jefferson and Associates, attorneys at law. I took it back to my office, sat down, and opened it carefully. The letter was 3 pages of dense, pompous legal language that boiled down to 4 demands. 1. Immediate return of the $15,000 venue deposit to the engaged couple, to be divided 50-50. 2. $7,000 reimbursement to Tanisha's parents for their contribution to a wedding that will not occur due to Mr. Phillips' unilateral decision to cancel. 3. $5,000 in compensation for emotional distress inflicted upon Tanisha by my capricious financial retaliation. 4. A formal written apology. Total demand, $17,500 plus my dignity on paper. I stared at the letter for a long moment, then picked up my phone and called Rashad. I have something you need to see, I said. I am forwarding you a picture now. I snapped photos of each page and sent them. 2 minutes later, Rashad called back laughing, so hard he could barely breathe. This is the most ridiculous demand letter I've seen in years, he said. They have absolutely no standing. You paid the deposit. Tanisha is the one who broke off the engagement with her ultimatum. Her parents' contribution was a gift, legally. Emotional distress. They would have to prove intentional harm. This is nonsense. So what do we do? I asked. We respond, firmly, Rashad said. I will draft a letter. You will send it certified mail. And then if they keep pushing, we will talk about harassment. Rashad sent me a draft later that afternoon. It was concise and brutal in the most professional way. Mr. Phillips paid the venue deposit in full using his personal funds. It began, and possesses documentation proving same. Ms. Grant announced an indefinite postponement of the wedding contingent upon Mr. Phillips transferring ownership of substantial premarital assets into her name, a demand he declined. As such, there is no wedding to plan. Mr. Phillips has chosen to utilize the venue services he purchased. Ms. Grant's parents' financial contribution was a gift, which is legally irrevocable. Your claim of emotional distress is frivolous and unsupported. No funds will be remitted. Further baseless demands will be met with a harassment claim. Rashad finished with a polite but icy closing. I signed the letter, had it printed on his firm's letterhead, and mailed it certified the next morning. The legal letter apparently lit a fuse on Tanisha's side of the family. By Thursday morning, her younger sister, Asia, called me. What is wrong with you, Tyrone? Asia demanded as soon as I answered. Tanisha is devastated. She has been crying for days. You are throwing away 2 years over money. I took a breath. I'm not throwing away anything, Asia, I said. Your sister demanded I put her name on assets worth over $1 million before we were even married, or she would postpone the wedding. I refused. That was her choice. She just wants to feel secure, Asia said. You are being unreasonable. Asia, would you marry someone and immediately put your name on everything they own, or give them your house, your car, your business, before the wedding? I asked. There was a pause. That is different, Asia said finally. How? I asked. Because you are the man, Asia said. You were supposed to take care of her. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. Taking care of someone does not mean handing them ownership of everything you have built without any safeguards, I said. That is not marriage. That is a robbery with a ceremony attached. Asia sucked in a shocked breath. You are disgusting, she said, and hung up on me. I looked at my phone for a moment, then set it down. Every conversation I was having with that family was confirming the same pattern. They were not interested in partnership. They were interested in access to assets. It was painful to admit that about people I had almost called my in-laws, but the more they spoke, the clearer it became. The next day, things escalated from emotional and legal pressure to outright criminal behavior. Around midday, I received a call from my bank's fraud department. Mr. Phillips, this is Angela from Houston Federal Bank, a calm voice said. We are calling about an attempted change to your checking account. My stomach dropped. What kind of change? I asked. Someone submitted documents requesting that a Tanisha Grant be added as a joint account holder on your primary checking account, Angela said. The request included a signature purporting to be yours. Our system flagged it as suspicious because the signature did not match the one we have on file, and because you have no previous joint accounts. I clenched my jaw. I did not authorize that, I said. I never signed any such documents. That is fraud. Angela's tone became even more formal. In that case, we will treat this as an attempted identity fraud incident, she said. We will freeze any pending changes, block further attempts, and place a fraud alert on your account. We recommend you contact law enforcement to file a report, and we will provide documentation as needed. Can you tell me who submitted the documents? I asked. I cannot disclose personal details over the phone, Angela said, but the documents did list Tanisha Grant as the requested joint holder. The submission came from an in-branch visit. The person claimed you were unable to attend and had signed in advance. A cold wave rolled through me. Thank you, I said tightly. Please send me copies of everything related to that attempt. She agreed, and we ended the call. I sat there for a moment, staring at the wall, realizing that someone I had loved enough to marry, or her mother, had just tried to quietly wrap their hands around my bank account. I drove straight to the police station and filed a report for attempted identity fraud. The officer at the front desk listened as I laid out the situation, the broken engagement, the demand for asset transfers, the bank's call. He took notes, asked for copies of the documents when the bank released them, and gave me a case number. We will open an investigation, he said. If you receive any more suspicious financial notices, call us immediately. Keep records of everything. When I left the station, I sat in my car in the parking lot for almost 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, breathing slowly. I was angry, but beneath the anger was this heavy grief. I kept replaying Tanisha's laughter in my kitchen, the way she had curled against me on the couch, and I had to accept that the same person, or at least the same family, was now moving against me like an enemy. When I got home, I decided to check my credit reports, just in case. Good thing I did. There were 2 recent inquiries I did not recognize. One was from my own bank, related to the attempted joint account. The other was from a credit card company I had never used. I called their customer service line and eventually reached their fraud department. We have an application here for a joint credit card in the names of Tyrone Phillips and Tanisha Grant, the representative said. It was flagged because some data did not match what we have on file for you. I did not apply for that, I said. Please cancel it, and note that it was unauthorized. They assured me it had not been approved and would be destroyed, and they also recommended that I keep an eye on my reports. When I hung up, I immediately called Rashad again. She is trying to forge joint accounts now, I told him. The bank, a credit card. Who knows what else? Rashad exhaled sharply. Document it all, he said. Get copies of the bank documents, the credit application, the fraud alerts. This actually helps you if they try to pursue any more legal nonsense. It shows a pattern of intent to access your finances without permission. Also, if this ties back to her mother, it could turn into more serious charges. I already filed a police report, I said. Good, Rashad replied. Now the next step is to cut off all direct contact. If Tanisha or her family want to speak, they go through me. You do not negotiate privately with people who are forging your signature. I agreed, feeling more like a client than a friend, but that was what I needed. Of course, life does not respect legal boundaries completely. The very next day, Tanisha showed up at my house. It was the first time I'd seen her in person since the ultimatum. She stood on my porch in a simple dress, hair pulled back, eyes red-rimmed. There was a time when the sight of her like that would have made me pull her into my arms without a second thought. Instead, I opened the door only wide enough for me to stand in it. "Tyrone, please, can we talk?" she asked, voice trembling. "5 minutes," I said. "You cannot come inside. We will talk out here." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I am sorry," she began. "I should not have given you an ultimatum. I was scared and my mom got in my head. Can we please just forget this and move forward with the wedding?" "So you will drop the demand for your name on everything?" I asked. Tanisha shifted her weight. "Well, I still think it is fair," she said, "but we can discuss it after the wedding instead of before. We do not have to do it right away." I stared at her. "Tanisha, someone tried to add your name to my bank account using forged documents," I said. "Someone tried to open a joint credit card in our names. Was that you?" Her face went pale. That was not my mom's fault," she said quietly. That was my answer. "So your mother tried to commit identity fraud using my information?" I pressed. "She was just trying to help," Tanisha said quickly. "She wanted to show you how easy it would be to share things." "By committing a crime?" I asked. "By forging my signature." Tanisha's eyes flashed. "Do not call it a crime," she said. "We are engaged. We are supposed to be building a life together. It should not be fraud if we're going to be married." "Tanisha, listen very carefully," I said. "We are not engaged anymore. The wedding is off permanently. You and your mother tried to take what was not yours by falsifying legal documents. I filed a police report. I have lawyers involved. This is not something we can just forget and move past." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I did not steal anything," she said. "I was trying to protect myself." "There are ways to protect yourself that do not involve lying to banks and forging documents," I said. "You chose this path. I cannot trust you. I will not marry you." She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "Get off my property, Tanisha," I said quietly. "If you or your mother contact me again, I will add her directly to the police report and push for every possible charge. Leave." She stared at me for a long second, then turned and walked down the steps, shoulders shaking as she sobbed. I watched her drive away and felt, not relief, not satisfaction, just a hollow sort of finality. 2 weeks later, I learned that the entitlement and schemes had reached a level I had not even fully imagined. First, Tanisha's father, Leon, called me. Of all of them, he had always seemed the most reasonable. "Tyrone, this has gone too far," Leon said. "We are family. We can sit down and talk this through." I sighed. "Leon, your wife committed identity fraud," I said. "Your daughter demanded ownership of my assets as a condition of marriage. There is nothing to discuss." Leon sounded weary. "Valerie made a mistake," he said. "She has apologized, and she did not mean for it to become this serious. And Tanisha, look, she is young. She got scared. Women need security. Women need security," I repeated. "Or con artists need assets. Which one are we talking about here?" There was a long pause on the line. "That is harsh," Leon said quietly. "Is it?" I asked. "Be honest with me. Did you know about any of this? The demand Tanisha made? The forged documents? The attempts to get onto my accounts?" There was an even longer pause. Then Leon said, "Valerie mentioned helping Tanisha feel more secure financially. She did not tell me the details. Did she mention forging my signature on bank forms?" I asked. Silence. "Leon, I liked you," I said. "You have always been decent to me. But your wife manipulated your daughter into trying to steal from me. And when I refused, she tried to take it anyway. I have already filed a police report. If Valerie contacts me again, I am pressing charges without hesitation. You need to know that." Leon exhaled a long breath. "I am sorry this happened," he said. "I really am. I should have stepped in sooner. I did not realize how far she would go." "I'm done, Leon," I said. "I wish you the best, but I am done." I hung up, feeling like I had just closed the door on an entire branch of family that almost was. The following week, I did something petty. Beautifully, satisfyingly petty. I kept the venue reservation for October 12th. I decided if I had already paid $15,000, I would get something good out of it. I sat down on my computer and designed invitations for 50 people, close friends, family, co-workers who had stood by me through the chaos. At the top, in bold letters, I wrote, "You are invited to celebrate Tyrone Phillips' Independence Day." And beneath that, October 12th, 7 o'clock in the evening. Dinner, drinks, and dancing to commemorate freedom from manipulation. At the bottom, I added a dress code, "Wear whatever makes you feel powerful." I mailed them out, and the responses rolled in quickly. My brother Terrell called me laughing. "You are really doing this?" he asked. "Absolutely," I said. "If they wanted my money so badly, they can watch from the sidelines while I enjoy it." My parents were more cautious about it, but they did not try to stop me. My mother said, "I just want to be sure you are doing this for yourself, not to taunt anyone. I am doing it because I refuse to let them turn something I paid for into a monument to drama and regret," I said. "I want to remember that date for something good." My father clapped me on the shoulder. "You dodged a bullet," he said. "If you want to throw a party to celebrate that, I will bring the best suit I own." My friends loved the idea. My coworker Jerome told me, "I am wearing the sharpest suit I have, and I am dancing until the DJ goes home." The group chat lit up with jokes about Phillips' Independence Day and suggestions for playlists. For the first time since everything began, I felt something like genuine excitement. 2 days before the event, Mr. Coleman from Magnolia Grand called me. "Mr. Phillips, I want to give you a heads up," he said. "We have been contacted by Ms. Valerie Grant claiming that you are using venue services meant for her daughter's wedding." I sighed. "And what did she say?" I asked. "She insists that you stole their wedding and that she intends to protest outside the venue during your event," Mr. Coleman said carefully. "She has called multiple times." I rubbed my forehead. "The services I am using are the ones I paid for and transfer to my name legally," I said. "If she shows up and causes a disturbance, please call the police. I have a fraud investigation pending involving her, and I will not hesitate to involve law enforcement if she creates a scene." Mr. Coleman nodded, though I cannot see him. "We will have security on site, and we will contact authorities if necessary," he said. "We just wanted you to be aware." October 12th arrived. I put on a tailored navy suit, straightened my tie in the mirror, and for a brief moment wondered what it would have looked like if this had been my wedding day instead of what it had become. Then I reminded myself of forged documents, demand letters, and the sound of Tanisha saying, "If you loved me, you would put my name on everything." The doubt evaporated. When I walked into the venue, the staff greeted me with warm smiles. The room that had once been booked for a ceremony and reception was now set up for a dinner party with round tables, candles, and a large dance floor. As my guests arrived, there was laughter, hugs, and more than a few jokes about how this was the best non-wedding they had ever attended. My best friend Jerome clinked his glass and said, "To Tyrone, for choosing sanity over a pretty face with a pen near his bank account." Dinner was incredible. The caterer served grilled salmon, roasted chicken, and sides that disappeared quickly. The open bar was busy, and the DJ kept a steady stream of R&B and upbeat tracks flowing. At one point, my brother Terrell took the microphone for a short speech. "Tonight is not just about Tyrone avoiding a disaster," Terrell said. "It is about recognizing red flags before you invest your time, your heart, and your assets into a sinking ship. It is about remembering that love should never come with ultimatums about ownership. So raise your glasses to my brother for walking away before the paperwork made it impossible." The room erupted in applause and laughter. I felt my throat tighten for a moment, but it was not sadness. It was a strange blend of gratitude and relief. And then, because the universe has a dark sense of humor, Valerie showed up. She stood on the sidewalk outside the venue in a bright dress, holding a homemade sign that read, "This man stole my daughter's wedding." Some guests noticed her through the front windows and quietly pointed her out. I watched from inside as she paced back and forth, shouting at arriving guests that I was a thief, that her daughter's heart had been broken, that I owed them money. Venue security came over and spoke with her. She waved her sign and refused to leave. Someone at the venue called the police. 2 officers arrived, listened to Valerie's tirade, and then looked up at the building. One of my groomsmen from the almost wedding, Marcus, stood by the window recording the entire thing on his phone. The officers asked Valerie if she had a legitimate reason to be on the property. She did not. They asked her to leave. She refused. She raised her voice, pointing at the building and insisting that this is supposed to be my daughter's special day. Eventually, after multiple warnings, they arrested her for trespassing and disturbing the peace. From inside, We watched as they walked her to the patrol car, her sign hanging limp at her side. She kept shouting about stolen weddings and broken hearts, but no one outside seemed to care. My brother Terrell quietly raised his glass and said, "To dodging bullets." Everyone at my table lifted their glasses with him. It was, without exaggeration, the best $15,000 I have ever spent. In the 6 weeks after the party, the fallout from Valerie's choices kept unfolding. The identity fraud case moved forward. The police investigation revealed that Valerie had not just tried once to access my finances. She had attempted to forge documents 3 separate times. The first was the attempt to add Tanisha to my bank account. The second was the joint credit card application. The third, which I had not known about, was a fraudulent quitclaim deed submitted to the Harris County Recorder's Office, attempting to add Tanisha's name to my house title. The county caught it because the signature did not match what they had on file, and they called me to verify. I only learned about that third attempt when the detective handling my case told me about it during a follow-up interview. Valerie was eventually charged with 3 counts of identity fraud and 1 count of attempted theft by deception. When the case went before the judge, her lawyer tried to argue that she had been acting in her daughter's best interests, that she did not understand the legal ramifications, that she was simply overprotective. The judge was not amused. Ignorance of the law is not a defense, the judge said. These were not impulsive actions. They were repeated, calculated attempts to obtain ownership and access to another person's property and finances. Facing the likelihood of a trial and the risk of jail time, Valerie ultimately pleaded guilty. She received 18 months of probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory counseling, and an order to pay restitution for my legal fees, which came to $3,800. If she violates probation, she will serve jail time. Around the same time, Leon filed for divorce. I heard about it first from Rashad, who had seen the public records, and then from Leon himself when he called me again. Apparently, this was not the first time Valerie did something like this, Leon said quietly. She forged my signature on loan documents years ago without telling me. I kept it quiet because I did not want to break up the family. But this was my breaking point. Watching her get arrested outside your event, knowing she had dragged my daughter into all of this. I could not do it anymore. He apologized to me again, more sincerely than before. I should have stepped in sooner, Leon said. I should have told you what I suspected when Tanisha started talking about your assets. I hope you can forgive me for not warning you. I told him I did not hold him responsible for his wife's actions, but I appreciated his honesty. As for Tanisha, there was complete silence after the party. No texts, no calls, no messages. For a while, I wondered if she had finally realized how far things had gone and decided to disappear out of shame. Then, about 3 weeks after the event, I received a message on LinkedIn from someone named Candace Lewis, a woman around my age whose name I did not recognize. "Hi Tyrone," the message read. "You do not know me, but I dated Tanisha's ex-fiancée before you. She probably told you she had been single for 6 months before she met you, right?" My stomach tightened as I read. She was not. The message continued. She was engaged to my ex, Reggie Thompson. The same thing happened. She demanded that he put her name on his condo and his investment accounts before their wedding. When he refused, she called it off and then tried to claim that she had contributed to his assets during their relationship. He had to threaten legal action before she backed off. "I am sorry this happened to you. I just wanted you to know it is a pattern." I sat at my desk staring at the message for a long time. I felt strangely validated and simultaneously even more disturbed. It was one thing to tell myself that Tanisha's behavior was an ugly one-off caused by her mother's influence. It was another to realize that this was part of a repeating strategy, a script they had deployed with other men before me. I thanked Candace for reaching out, asked a few clarifying questions about the timeline, and then forwarded screenshots of the conversation to Rashad. "Good to know," Rashad said when we spoke. "If Tanisha ever tries to come after you legally or claims anything about shared assets, this helps establish a pattern of behavior. Save everything." I did exactly that, organizing every document, message, and report into a digital folder labeled Grant Situation. The last dangling thread from this whole mess was the $7,000 Tanisha's parents had contributed toward the original wedding. Legally, Rashad reminded me, that money had been a gift. I was under no obligation to return it. But then I heard from Leon again, this time through his divorce attorney. Apparently, Valerie had used joint savings, funds Leon had not agreed to spend, specifically to contribute that amount to the wedding. The attorney's letter explained that Valerie had done so as part of a plan to help Tanisha entangle herself in my finances. Since there had been no wedding, Leon requested reimbursement of the $7,000 as part of the divorce proceedings, arguing that the money should not have been spent in the first place. I read the letter twice and thought about Leon's exhausted voice on the phone. In the end, I decided to send him $7,000. Not because I had to, Rashad was clear that I did not, but because Leon had been caught in the crossfire of his wife's schemes as much as I had. I called him first. "Leon, I will send the $7,000, I said. "You did not agree to that money being used that way, and I am not interested in fighting you over it." Leon was quiet for a moment, then said, "You do not have to do that, Tyrone." "I know," I said, "but it seems fair. You lost a lot in all of this. I am in a position to absorb that loss. Consider a clean break." A few days later, I wired the funds. Leon sent me a short message afterward. "Thank you. I hope someday you find someone who deserves the kind of loyalty you try to give my daughter." Life gradually settled into a new normal after that. My Independence Day party became something of a legend among my friends. People brought it up at barbecues and game nights. "Remember when Tyrone threw a full reception to celebrate not getting married?" Jerome would say, and everyone would laugh. My brother started using the phrase Philip's Independence Day whenever someone in our circle finally left a toxic relationship or walked away from a one-sided situation. Even the venue coordinator, Mr. Coleman, sent me a thank you note afterward. He wrote, "Your event was one of the most memorable we have hosted." After the brief incident outside, the atmosphere inside was one of genuine joy. Our staff appreciated how kind your guests were, and the tips were very generous. "You are welcome back anytime." A month after the party, I sold my house. Not because of Tanisha or any lingering ghost she left behind, but because I had been thinking about downsizing even before the engagement. The house was larger than I needed, and with the company doing well, I wanted to move closer to our main warehouse to cut down on my commute. I found a smaller place in a quiet neighborhood, still in Houston, with a shorter drive to work and a cozy backyard where I could sit in the evenings and breathe. Signing the papers to transfer the title felt surreal. The same house that Valerie had tried to slip Tanisha's name onto through a fraudulent deed was now going to an entirely different family. As I handed over the keys, I felt a surprising lightness. I also started therapy. After everything that had happened, my trust in my own judgment had taken a hit. I sat across from Dr. Lewis, my therapist, and told her the whole story from beginning to end. She listened without interrupting, occasionally asking gentle questions. "You did a lot of things right," she said after I finished. "You held clear financial boundaries. You sought legal advice. You did not respond to manipulation by giving in. But it makes sense that your trust feels shaken. When someone you are planning to marry turns into an adversary, it can feel like your reality has been rewritten." We met weekly for a while. We talked about patterns, about why Tanisha's initial vulnerability had been so attractive to me, about why I had overlooked earlier comment her mother made. It did not fix everything, but it helped me make peace with the fact that protecting myself did not make me cold or unloving. Dating is not on my radar yet. When friends jokingly try to set me up, I smile and tell them maybe someday, but not now. I'm not bitter exactly. I'm cautious. If someone tries to rush talk about finances or assets, I know I will hear alarm bells immediately. For now, I am pouring my energy into my work, my family, and my own peace. Philip's freight is growing. Terrell and I are talking about expanding into another city next year. On weekends, I sometimes drive past Magnolia Grand when I am downtown and glance at the entrance. I imagine some other couple walking in, nervous and excited, thinking only about flowers and vows, unaware that the same room once hosted a celebration of a man choosing himself. Every once in a while, I think about Tanisha. I do not stalk her social media or ask mutual acquaintances for updates. I doubt she will reach out, not after everything that happened with her mother and the criminal charges. I wonder if she has learned anything, if she will keep repeating the same pattern with someone else, or if this was the shock she needed to break away from Valerie's control. But those questions are not mine to answer anymore. Whatever future Tanisha builds, it will be without access to my accounts, my house, or my name on any joint deed. When I look back over the whole sequence now, the ultimatum at my dining table, the demand letter, the forged documents, the party, the arrest outside the venue, it reads like a story someone else might tell to entertain strangers. But I lived every minute of it. I felt the sting of realizing that the person I loved valued my assets more than our partnership. I watched his entitlement turn into schemes and then into outright crime. I learned firsthand that courts do not care about, but we were in love, and that banks do not care about, but we were engaged. The law is the law, and fraud is fraud, regardless of how many tears are shed afterward. When I tally up the costs, they're surprisingly simple. I spent $15,000 on a venue deposit, although calling that a loss feels wrong when I remember the joy of that Independence Day party. I spent $3,800 on legal fees, which I later recovered through restitution. I spent 2 years in a relationship with someone who turned out to be running a long con, or at least acting out a script written by her mother. But I kept my house, I kept my business stake, I kept my financial security, and I kept my dignity. Tanisha walked away with nothing but a reputation for demanding her fiancé's assets before marriage. Valerie ended up with a criminal record and a divorce. Leon finally reclaimed his self-respect by standing up to his wife. As for me, I took the lesson and moved forward. The revenge, if you can even call it that, was not elaborate. It was not some meticulous plot to ruin anyone. It was just boundaries. Hard, immovable boundaries enforced by law, by common sense, and by a refusal to be bullied out of what I had earned. I did not need to destroy anyone. All I had to do was say no, document everything, and let their own actions catch up with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do when someone believes they are entitled to everything you have is to refuse to be a victim, and then throw an unforgettable party with the money they thought they were entitled to. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.